All right, the fourth Kickstarter, well, the third Kickstarter is up of Planet Alkebulan. It's really been a beautiful thing, just to, give you a little extra from what I put out there on the Kickstarter video. They only give you 3 minutes, so I just wanted to run a little longer. This is Jeff Carroll of Sci-Fi Express Lane, going in a little deeper on my project, Planet Alkebulan Book 3. Book 3 is takes place in the kind of the climax of the story, but I have more story that I want to give you, so you know how story arcs end, other story arcs begin. So you'll see the king and queen attempt to connect with each other, whereas on the beginning of the book, they Planet Alkebulan Visitor 1, they did not know what was going on this planet, and it was out of control. They find out what's going on, and then in book 2 they try to find a way to get the king and queen together, and something comes in between them. And then in book 3, the queen is aware that she has to get with the king, and she's making her way to get with the king. And so that's a beautiful thing, but it's also my first opportunity to show the Soul Ra dragon. And as much as it is a dragon in the story, it's more of a dragon cameo than a dragon story. But nevertheless, it's a dragon, and I wanted to have a dragon in my story, for real. I'm going to put another dragon in another story because I like dragons, and kind of doing a fantasy, in order to suspend people's belief systems, you got to suspend your belief system, or suspend your reality to write it. And we have this subgenre called Sword and Soul. And I took the liberty of calling the story The Sword of Soul. And you see the birth of the awareness of the power of Shabaka's sword, but you can't put everything in. It's not an encyclopedia. So you just get an idea of the power of this sword. And then in the fourth book, you'll see it, kind of even like 80%, because there's more to the sword than what I was even able to show in these books. So when you see the king and queen finally come together, you'll see the power or the role that the sword plays in the whole universe. I'm trying not to give away the story, but it's a beautiful thing to be able to put these things in, I guess, a framework to deliver them. You always think when you're doing like fantasy, and I'm going to be doing a Dungeons and Dragons or RPG role-playing guidebook for my characters. But when you're building characters like the way I did for this series, where every character has a weapon, every weapon has a history or power strength level, the character has a power strength level, it's different than saying Superman, who can do this, he can do that, or Hulk. You don't know whether he's stronger than the Thor, or sometimes in the stories it doesn't really matter. Well, when you're doing role-playing games, that's the main thing that matters. When you see the what's the movie, Dungeons and Dragons, you'll see him counter homegirl's spells with his spells. So a lot of times, in that story, you didn't really see the calculation of countering weapons and powers and things. But when you're strategizing as a role-playing game player, you have to strategize what character you're going to use, what move you're going to do. That way it can deal with whatever you're confronted with. In the movie Dungeons and Dragons, there was a little bit of that, but it didn't necessarily do it the way you do it when you're playing the game. And you really can't show that. So when I saw the movie Dungeons and Dragons, it reminded me of what I had to do with Planet Alkebulan. You know, when I thought of Planet Alkebulan, I actually did, character cards on all of my characters before I wrote the stories, and I started thinking of them. And this is kind of, even the story came after the characters. I wrote the characters first. So when you do all of this world building, do all this character development, sometimes you want to tell everything that you know about the character. And sometimes you just got to wait for the story to let that happen. However, sometimes you can't get it all out. Sometimes you can't tell everybody. Like, there's elements of the Kim sword that I don't get to tell. I don't get to tell in the 4 books. So even though there's a resolution in the 4th book, you still don't know everything, and that's kind of fine. I'm gonna probably do like a little short story where it deals mostly with the Kim sword, but this one was a big story. I was like Avengers, Thor needed his own movie for y'all to learn about his hammer. But you're going to learn a little bit about his hammer in the Avengers. It's just that it ain't Thor's movie. So as much as Chewbacca is in this story, it's not his story. So I may do a separate Chewbacca adventure, so that way I can get into his particular weapons. And same thing with Kuhela. She has these energy charged swords, which sort of got an upgrade in the series, but you don't know. She doesn't know really how powerful they are. But again, this is like Dungeons and Dragons. You know what I'm saying? These characters have weapons. They have powers that vibe off the other characters' powers and the things that they're confronted with. It's not just Spider-Man slings webs and he threw it on somebody's face. Well, in Dungeons and Dragons and the RPG games, you know just how powerful the webs are. You know just who can take the web off. So it's a little bit more than just what you see. So that's a beautiful thing. Also, switch gears a little bit. These are just, I'm just going to put titles, things that, random ideas from this 3rd book of Planet Alkebulan. All right, so Planet Alkebulan was going to be originally a 4 or even 5 book series. So this is no stretch. This is exactly the way the story is going that I wanted to tell, and got everything in there. The cool thing about it is, like with Jorge, the illustrator, he's from Argentina, and he's an artist illustrator. He admires a lot of forms of art. So when he does his illustrations, they're impressionable. I think if there's a way to put him in the European categories, he does impressionist art. And when you see his pages, they flow together in an interesting way. Sometimes you may say, oh my God, it's not finished, but it's finished. And he uses background, sometimes not background. He bleeds color. He exaggerates things in a different way. He shows his emotions in the characters differently. So he doesn't rely on like straight facial expressions, but sometimes caricature expressions where the character face is longer, stretched in a certain way. But that's, when you read the line or you look at the action, it's fitting because it works with what's going on. So I like that about him. Also, you imagine these characters, the appearance of them. I gave him names and put the story around it, but he gave me images of the characters. And then I gave him the world. He envisioned the world. I didn't tell him, we didn't go through a series of character designs. Some of my preset characters that make appearances in there, yeah. But in terms of characters that work for the story, the background characters, those are all his ideas. What I will also say is Planet Alkebulan fits into my holoverse. So there's appearances by characters that are in other stories in my comic book universe and my novels. And they will continue, like characters from this story will make appearances in more of my comic books and more of my books. I have a short story that actually follows this fourth book, and when I do the graphic novel for this story, and I put all of the books together, I'm going to put the short story in there. But again, all these things got to wait, and it's just a fun ride. So you really got to enjoy the ride. But the Holoverse is a real thing. I've done videos on it, and I'll continue to do videos as it grows, because I wanted to do like all of these things all at once and in a chronological order. But one, I don't always think of the characters in chronological order, or at least the stories don't come to me that way. And illustrators work at different paces. That's the biggest factor, is a lot of these illustrators work at different paces. And as much as I want to have a story come out at this time and in this order, it doesn't. And it's kind of cool because like the Marvel universe was my guideline, or inspiration, not really inspiration, but guideline, because you may see a Thor story here, Iron Man story here, and WandaVision, and they got to catch you up. I was more also inspired by Star Wars stories, where in their expanded universe, there's a whole lot of different stories. Even when you read it, I had to buy the Star Wars expanded universe guidebook just to be able to figure out which story goes when and where. So I'm going to have to do that with my Holoverse, even though it may be 12 or 13 books. I'm actually putting my movies in the Holoverse. So it's going to be something that squeezes together, and there'll be some fudge areas, but it will actually work. I've been putting in some thought, and I was like, yeah, I can actually make this work. Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is, or I guess the thing is, it's all my ideas. So even if they just come out of my head, they're going to have some connecting points or some similarities, because it's all based on my philosophies. So I don't know, but I know this. The Planet Alkebulan is the central story to my universe. So if you can check it out, the Kickstarter is live. I'll put the link here in the description. And book 1, book 2, book 3, and it's going to finish book 4, where I been 5 pages since for a month. But that's how Jorge works. He'll pop up 10 pages here, in another 2 months is another 10 pages. So I'm just happy that he's consistent, and it looks like we're going to close this thing out. He's already done the last pages of the book, and he's working his way back into the middle of the book. So it's going to be some good stuff. There may be some more things that I want to say about the Planet Alkebulan book 3, but I'm going to leave it here. This is the mind of the creator, Jeff Carroll. Check me out. I'll put the links in the description. But if you like this, you got questions for me, comment, share, like the video, and also subscribe. All right? So I'll talk to you later. Peace.